All right, thanks everyone for letting me join you guys today. I'm really happy to be here with you guys virtually. Like Lindsay said, my name is Kristen Beam, and I am currently working with a part of a team called the Regional Class Research Vessels Group, and I'm a marine science systems engineer. And what I do is I'm kind of helping build these new research boats that scientists can use so that they can go out to sea, and it's been really fun so far. So I noticed that you guys were all saying different things about yourself and kind of getting to know you. So I thought I'd do the same. So here's a couple about me slides. So I grew up at the base of Mount Hood in Boring, Oregon. Yes, it's called Boring, Oregon. Here on the map, it's right about there. So a little tiny small town. And I love the ocean. I always loved going to the beach growing up. Got a little bit older, started scuba diving underwater, and I just love marine creatures as well. And so kind of the love of that kind of propelled me into the career I'm at today. So this left-hand picture right here, this is actually me. Can't really tell, but that's me in a dry suit. That was at one of my old jobs when I was at Crater Lake National Park, which is the deepest lake in the US. So I got a scuba dive in it. I didn't go that deep. I think I went maybe 30 or 40 feet deep. So it wasn't that deep, but that's me there. And then this is my favorite marine creature. It's called a peacock mantis shrimp, and they have really cool, like, developed eyes. So I just wanted to share some about me before we got started. So you might be thinking, what is a research ship? She's been using it a couple times. So a research ship is also sometimes called a research vessel. It's a large boat, and its main mission is to go out to sea and to learn more about the ocean by collecting data. And so there's a couple different pictures I have right here. This is the US Coast Guard cutter Healy. That's another mouthful. It's an icebreaker that is designed to go up to the Arctic and break through sea ice so that scientists can go way up north and actually see what's going on in the Arctic and how things are changing. It's 420 feet long, so it's really big. This little tiny boat on the ship is about 20 feet long. So you can kind of put that in perspective. This is a massive ship, and it can hold about 150 people and go out to sea for like 60 to 90 days at a time, which is a long time. That's like 2 or 3 months. And this is the RV Oceanus. So this one is the Oregon State University's current research vessel, and it's about 180 feet long, so much shorter, and can go out to sea for about 30 days or a month. And that one can have 25 people on board. And so it's much smaller, but it can still do a lot of different really cool science things. And so I've gone on both of these ships. Looks like we have lots of questions blowing up in the chat box. That's big. What do you do with all of that space? So it looks real big, but we'll go into this a little bit later. But you know, you have so many people, and you have like workspace. You have to find I won't get into that quite. I'll get into that a little bit later, but that's a great question. So yeah, that's what a research ship is. And do you guys know who goes on a research ship? Yes, but scientists go on these research vessels, and they study different things in the ocean. So they can study like what lives in the ocean, like, you know, whales, fish, phytoplankton, and all the different animals that kind of make up what lives in the ocean. And how does the ocean change over time? So the ocean is warming and becoming more acidic. And what does that mean for all the animals that live in there? And then what does that mean for the rest of the earth? Because, you know, the ocean is a big part of the whole system. And so the scientists really ask these big questions, and like, how does the water move? And does the water movement change over time? What does the bottom of the ocean look like? You know, there's many places where the bottom of the ocean still isn't mapped. So this is a really fun picture right here. This was when I was up in the Arctic. This was one of the scientists here with 2 spider crabs that we found on a mooring. So we like pulled this mooring off the bottom of the ground, or off the bottom of the ocean, brought it back on the ship, and all of these spider crabs were on it. So we're like, let's put them back in the water. But we kind of held them up and took some pictures. So these scientists weren't actually studying these crabs. They were studying more of the physical oceanography. So, you know, how does the water move? What kind of chemicals are in the water and stuff. So it was just a really cool picture. This other one right here is kind of a diagram of a ship mapping the bottom of the ocean. So you can actually use sound waves to map the bottom of the ocean, which is really cool. And then this other picture, you can see kind of how big the Healy is. That's the Arctic, the ship that goes up to the Arctic. You can kind of see these tiny little people in this huge ice field on this huge ship. So it's a really cool job. And so, yeah, there goes your thanks, Harbor, for that question earlier, Lavender. But who goes to sea on a research cruise? You have to have like a captain and crew. So when you think of like traditional ships, you go out to sea, you know, you have to have someone driving the ship, right? You have to have engineers that make sure that the ship keeps on going. So here's Tawanda right here. That's the chief engineer of the Oceanus. You have to have the cooks. You have to have deckhands to kind of work the equipment. So you have to have kind of all these people to actually run the ship. And then you have a chief scientist that comes on board. So they're the ones that's kind of organizing everyone else. And so you have the chief scientist and then scientists. So all these other pictures right here are pictures of scientists. So yeah, they come out to sea. They have usually so many different research questions. You know, we have some scientists that come out and they want to study the mud. We have some other ones that are looking at whales. So it's really kind of fun to see how these scientists use these different research ships or research platforms to study the ocean. And then what does a research vessel need to do? So we kind of have chatted about this a little bit. So it's not just a ship, right? It's a specialty ship. So what do you guys need to live at your house? You know, what are the things that you can kind of think of, you know, what do you need every day in order to live that you would also think that you might need on a ship? Do you have any thoughts about that? I see someone's eating. You need to eat on a ship, right? So you have to have a kitchen. So you have to have we call it a galley on a ship, but you have to have a kitchen in order to make food, to eat food.
So we've got some campers saying water.
Water. That's
a
perfect.
Bed from Saheli.
Yep. You need a bed, you need water. These are all great things. And actually the ships, we can make fresh water while we're out at sea. They can take the salt water and basically use waste engine heat to like heat it up and boil off all the salts, and then you have fresh water. So it's really cool. So you need all the things that you need in your house because you're living out at sea. But then it also needs to be a ship, so it needs to float, right? It's not a submarine. So it needs to float, so it can't be too heavy. It also needs to propel through the water. You need to have electricity for all the electronics. And then on top of being a house and a ship, it also needs to be a science platform. So it needs to be able to allow these scientists to, you know, think of these questions like what's happening with the whales or with the water or all these different things and be able to answer those questions. So it's pretty complicated. So knowing who goes on the ship and what they study, what is important for the ship to have? So we kind of talked about it: bed, some water, a toilet, a shower. We need showers. It's also important to have, in this picture right here, so this is a rendering of one of the new ships. So this is what the first ship is going to look like, the Ta'ani. You can see that there's some of this big equipment that like a crane and an A-frame. And so it'll help put the instruments, science instruments, in the water and take it out of the water. You can also see there's some big satellite domes. So you can actually have internet on the ship, which is really cool. So these ships are very like dynamic and they're like a big puzzle. And as far as like what materials you think that you would need to build a ship, do you guys remember like pirate ships or old timey, like, you know, wooden ships? We don't actually build ships out of wood anymore. We build it out of steel. And so we need like a lot of steel, a lot of metal. And yeah, it's pretty.
There was a quick comment from Saheli, a library would be needed on the ship. Like, that's a great observation, especially for you guys going out, for the scientists going out there, having those resources.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yep. Computers.
Yep, computers on the ship. Yeah. And then we also have a library. Huh?
Yeah.
That was a great observation. All of these ships usually do have some sort of library. So if you like see a fish or a phytoplankton, you're like, I'm not exactly sure what that is. You can actually like, yeah, there's books on the ship, but that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
We actually have a really quick question, great question from Ava about how does it float? Are you going to get to that in your next few slides? Forgive me if you are.
Basically, it has to do with water displacement. So the water pushes up on the boat as much as the boat pushes down on the water. So it allows the ship to kind of be held up by the water. But that's one of the considerations that we have to think about when we're building the ship, is there's a lot of equipment, a lot of things that need to be on it. But you have to think, it also can't be too heavy, or the center of gravity, it can't be too high, right? Otherwise it's going to tip too much. So yeah, that's another big thing. So what does it take to build a research ship? It takes creativity, skill, and patience. It's really like a puzzle, trying to get all the systems and pipes to fit together. But then also, you know, how do we get this big equipment on there and allow it to still float is one of the big questions too. And these are, and we've come up with a lot of solutions. And this is what our CRV team is doing to make these ships a success for the future scientists. And maybe you guys will be scientists someday and will be sailing on these ships. So there's also some very exciting parts about building a new ship. Like I said, so the Oceanus that I was telling you guys before, she's about 50 years old. Ships are usually, you refer to them as she's. That's kind of just a sailor thing. And so she's almost 50 years old, which is a really long time. I think my car is about 20 years old, and that's very old for a car. So a ship with, you know, that's almost 50 years old, that's very like some outdated technology. And so these new ships are going to have like fun new toys, basically, fun new equipment. So in this right-hand picture, this is a robotic arm that actually takes instruments in and out of the water just using a button. So, well, more than a button, but basically like your Xbox controller, right? You can actually take instruments in and out of the water using this. And so we didn't have this on the old ships, which is really cool. We'll also be able to communicate real time with information. So scientists and people at home can both be part of the research expeditions. So you can be sitting at home and, you know, there's something really cool going on at sea and you'll be able to see it real time at home. So it's really cool and exciting. Yeah. And that's the rest of my slide. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
Where is the ship being built right now?
Oh, that's a good question. So it's actually being built in Houma, Louisiana. So way down south in the bayous of Louisiana. And they're all three of them have had their keel being laid. And the first one is slated to be finished sometime next year, towards the end of next year. And so it's really cool. You can actually go online, and maybe I can send you guys the links, but you can go online and watch the ship being built real time. They have like cameras on the shipyard.
Very cool. And you're going to be
awesome.
Are you going to take it from the Gulf to Oregon?
I'm not sure if I'll be on that trip or not, but yeah, so that's a good question or observation. So you have Louisiana's way down here, right? And so the first one has to go all the way to Oregon. And so you have to go through like a series of canals and stuff in order for the ship to kind of cut across between North America and South America. and then get all the way up to Oregon. So it's a pretty cool trek.
And it looks like Sam and Kyle, your hand is raised. Do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question?
The first time you went on a ship, did you get seasick and throw up?
I did not. That's a great question.
How many times do you get asked that question is what I want to ask.
Yeah, I
Not a
know.
lot. And actually there's a really great like little infographic about seasickness, which I really like. But basically what happens when you get seasick is that, so your eyes, and then you have some liquid in your inner ears that kind of move. And so if you're sitting in an IMAX theater, right? So big screen, and it looks like you're moving, but your inner ears, the liquid in it says you're not moving. You can get seasick almost on land by looking at a big screen. Or if you're at sea and you like are looking at something that's stable, but the fluid in your inner ear saying that, oh no, we're definitely moving, those mismatches can signal like seasickness. And this, the going like theory on this is that way back in the day, if you ate a mushroom or something that was like, you know, poisonous, you'd start to like hallucinate or something. And so your body's response would be to throw up the poison. And so that's why there's still a lot of people that get seasick today, but I am not one of them, thankfully.
What's the longest time you've been out to sea?
Ooh, that's a good question. So my longest, and I've done this maybe 4 or 5 times, but my longest trip was 30 days at sea.
Ooh.
It's a lot of time. And we have small bunk beds too. You know, it's not like, oh, I have a huge king size bed. They're like pretty small little twin size bunk beds. You have a small little shower. Like you just get used to it.
Oh yeah.
One more, I have a quick question. What's your favorite part of your job?
I think, well, my current job, it's really cool. So we have what we call like modeling reviews, and basically they have a mock-up of the ship online, and it's 3-dimensional. And so you can kind of like walk through the ship before it's even built. And it's really cool to kind of see what it's going to look like. You can see the labs, you can see like the kitchen and galley area. And I think it's really cool.
All right. So thank you so much, Kristen, for coming on and telling us what it's like to build boats.
Yeah.
You have definitely set us up for our float-a-boat activity that we're going to be doing a little later today. So thank you so much. So campers, let's just thank Kristen for her time joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Kristen.
you.
Thank you, Kristen.